So, Marvel just dropped I believe, a behind the scenes for the Fantastic Four. I believe. Let's check it out.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
The Fantastic Four were created in the 60s. It was the time of optimism, of looking to the stars. We're putting in our own version of the 60s in this retro future world.
Matt challenged us at the early stages to try and do as much as we could practically.
We built this incredible Times Square backlot set, unbelievable sets for Reed's lab and the Baxter Building apartment. We went on location to Spain.
There was just so much care that was put into what the movie looks like. And I think that aesthetic really informed a rich way of realizing these characters.
It was such an imaginative space. It wasn't something that anyone had ever seen, so it was a magical experience.
Herbie!
Having a practical Herbie just felt like having another actor on set.
I was very excited about Herbie. The reality of how big of a character he was going to be just grew and grew. He pretty much does everything that we'll see him do on screen.
There's just something about Herbie. I kind of fell for him pretty quickly, and they're so cute. I felt like we had a shorthand. I felt like Herbie and Ben maybe spent a lot of time together. They were homies in a way.
With Matt Shakman's approach, he's always done it through the lens of what was available to the filmmakers in the 60s. It was practically what can you achieve in camera.
So why not shoot a miniature rocket?
The miniature of the Excelsior spaceship behind us is 1/30th scale. It's about 13.5 feet long.
Feels very much of the time, but also retro future as well.
Are we safe?
Nope.
And then Galactus is huge, and one of the things we wanted to make sure that we captured was that scale. We approached it practically. It needs a tremendous amount of light. It needs special lenses.
The biggest challenge was to make something on a human scale that we know is going to be blown up into an absolutely gigantic character. So every little bit of detail on him has to be minute so that when he is blown up to that huge scale, it all feels very real.
With all of these things, what they've done with this world is beautiful. It was just so fun to step into an era that felt so familiar and yet so otherworldly, so nostalgic and futuristic at the same time. It's very intentionally a cinematic experience.
We will face this together as a family.
Whoa! Yeah! Can't fucking wait! Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh, bro. Okay, so then new Rockstar dropped a video about Avengers Doomsday. So, I can't wait for that shit. So, I had to see that shit. I have to. It's only 10 minutes though, so it's not that bad. Hold on a second. Where did it go? I just had it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and we just got a big confirmation about Avengers Doomsday pertaining to Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards' role as the leader of the Avengers, as well as some crazy set photos that we're able to draw some pretty big conclusions for, specifically about the TVA and some connections I've been drawing about the production design that we're seeing in Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm going to break down all this new information and connect the dots. Also, the shirt I'm wearing is our exclusive Fantastic Bricks design available at our merch store, nerdriot.shop, which is really the best way that you can support what we're doing here at New Rockstars. In these final days before Fantastic Four First Steps, we got a big clue for the threat beyond the scope of this movie waiting for the fore when the director of the film, Matt Shakman, did an interview with Variety where he talked about the challenges of casting Reed Richards. Matt Shakman said he goes from being the nerdy scientist who's locked away in the lab to the husband and the father who'd do anything to protect his family to the guy who's leading the Avengers. I realized that the version we're building had to have all of those elements. The guy who's leading the Avengers. From what we can tell, there are two factions of Avengers in the MCU at the moment. The Avengers led by Sam Wilson, a team that will include Joaquin Torres, Shang-Chi, Thor, and probably others, and then the new Avengers, organized by Val in the events of the Thunderbolts film. Yelena Belova, Bucky Barnes, Alexei Shostakov, John Walker, Ava Starr, and Bob. The Thunderbolts post-credit scene, which we now know was shot by the Russo brothers on the set for Avengers Doomsday, making it a Doomsday scene in effect, suggests that the two Avengers teams are in a legal dispute dispute when Sam Wilson lawyered up.
And who are the real Avengers?
Well, that's the question the internet has been asking, and judging by the very nasty memes that I've read, they don't think that it's us.
Weren't you going to talk to him?
It went poorly.
You know he's filed for copyright of the name?
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
This scene also mentions a space crisis that this group doesn't know anything about, and of course ends with one of the Fantastic Four's ships entering the atmosphere of this universe.
Satellite image populating. Extra-dimensional ship entering atmosphere.
Extra-dimensional? What does that mean?
Wow, cool ship.
And a reminder that this ship is not the Excelsior, the main spaceship of the Fantastic Four that we see throughout her steps. The Excelsior has 3 fins, this ship has 4. But it is the ship of the Fantastic Four from their universe of Universe 828, arriving now in Universe 616. And now, with Matt Shackman's comments, I think we can assume that when the warring factions of the Avengers heal their divides, probably as a result of the threat that Dr. Doom brings, Reed Richards will be the outsider that they can agree upon to lead them. We are actually learning in the Fantastic Four First Steps film that an understated superpower of the Four, specifically of Sue Storm, is the ability to use empathy to forge unlikely alliances. In the official prelude comic that documents their backstory in the years before the film opens, we learn that Sue brokered a peace with Harvey Elder, aka Mole Man, that we finally just got a photo of Paul Walter Hauser playing, as well as Mole Man's Moloids and Deviant Mutates who all live in Subterranea. By just having compassion and listening long enough to realize that Harvey worked with Sue's grandfather, Dr. John Franklin Storm, at Empire State University's Particle Physics Department. Diplomacy like that is how Sue built the Future Foundation into the global demilitarization and peacekeeping force that it is. So if anything, I'm kind of thinking it should be Sue Storm leading the Avengers, not Reed. But you know, sometimes it takes a good leader to recognize when a bunch of brats on 2 sides of a conflict need someone like your spouse to call the shots instead of you, to just kind of step aside and let that happen. Or maybe something bad happens to Sue during the events of Doomsday and the task of leadership falls upon Reed. We know that some faction of the Fantastic Four will mix it up with different groupings of Avengers. This set photo has been going around, taken and posted by someone who works on the set of the film, and since it wasn't taken by like a paparazzi drone or someone who trespassed onto the set who wasn't supposed to be there, we are okay to show it. We see in this photo Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres in his Falcon suit, Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm the Thing in his fractal motion capture suit, and Wyatt Russell as John Walker in his new Avengers suit with a beret peering over the controls. We also think that might be the foot of Letitia Wright suited up as Shuri, Black Panther, over on the far right. I kind of feel like John Walker looking at these controls might be calling back what he says in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene.
I don't know what any of these buttons do. It's unbelievable they didn't mark any of them.
This set looks like they are on the bridge of a new ship used by the Avengers and or the Fantastic Four of this film. Maybe actually this could be one of Reed Richards' life rafts, the vessels that Reed builds and uses to try to save people from the incursion rifts in the comics that lead up to Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars event. For this grouping to include one Avenger from Sam Wilson's team, one new Avenger, one member of the Fantastic Four, and potentially Shuri from whatever side she sides with, we just have to assume that the Fantastic Four and Reed are successful at unifying the Avengers. If you own a pet, you're a parent. Dogs are part of the family, and like kids, they can't take care of themselves without your help. It's rewarding, but it can also be stressful. You want to make sure you're providing your dogs the best life possible. Well, if you're worried about providing the best food possible, /New Rockstars or use the code New Rockstars. You may have also seen some set imagery that was posted by Chris Hemsworth's stunt performer and part of Hemsworth's makeup team. This is a scene being shot for Avengers Doomsday at Pinewood Studios in London, and this location, which you can tell from the logo on the floor, is the TVA, the Time Variance Authority for Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine, the meta bureaucracy that keeps all timelines in the multiverse in order. It's no surprise that the TVA was going to factor into these events in some way. Deadpool and Wolverine left us a huge clue for Doomsday and Secret Wars with this moment.
What is that? Is that me? Is that Thor? Is he crying?
Is he crying?
Why is Thor crying?
That happens in the distant future.
Why is Thor crying? Quick,
do not speak to her. Stop that. Eyes on me.
Specifically, this location, this part of the TVA, with the general shape and the seafoam green color of the walls, tells us that we are on the utility floor of the TVA. Not the orange-colored analyst floor, but the floor beneath it, where OB worked. That was explored in Loki Season 2, where the optics and design desk is, and where the entrance to the temporal loom observation deck is. That entrance is actually a very interesting interesting place to be revisiting the Doomsday potentially, because the sign on the threshold warns about exposure to temporal radiation potentially causing spaghettification. You remember spaghettification? It's what we see Victor Timely going through several times in Loki season 2, and ultimately it's what happens to the entire TVA and all of reality when Loki fails to stop the temporal loom from melting down. But spaghettification is actually a real world thing. It comes from theoretical physics. It's a term for what happens to objects as they approach black holes and get sucked in. They stretch into a thin line. Now, I have not seen Fantastic Four First Steps as of this taping, but trailer footage and interviews tell us that that movie will be dealing with black hole physics. And isn't it interesting that we have someone who can stretch and stretch and stretch without being killed? And since both Fantastic Four First Steps and Loki share a production designer and Kazra Farhani, this seems like further evidence that there could be some connection between the retro technology that we saw in Loki and the retro tech that we now see in Fantastic Four First Steps. It's not just the fact that this tech is like vaguely 60s and analog, it's the exact digital typeface of their watches, the spherical computer monitor in Reed's blue area being the same shape of the orange monitors of the TVA. My theory for the past several months has been that the TVA was even constructed using Reed Richards technology. And yes, this Doomsday TVA imagery was shared by people who work on the film, specifically Chris Hemsworth's team. And we know that Hemsworth was shooting these scenes on this day because he was in London this week talking about feeling like the elder Avenger on set.
Making a great movie, and so it's fantastic to be back together with a lot of the old cast and a lot of new cast, and I feel like one of the elders now.
So this might be the scene that finally answers the question of why Thor was crying. And if the stuntman was there, it's probably going to be an action scene. It could be what I'd pitch as a possible first act scene that shows Dr. Doom assaulting the TVA and fighting God of Stories Loki. Although if Tom Hiddleston and Robert Downey Jr. are there, would Hemsworth say that he feels like the elder on set? Probably not. But there are probably other scenes that Hemsworth was shooting where he did feel that way. I feel like we're going to know a lot more about the next steps for Dr. Doom after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out in a week. My spoiler-free review of the film will come out on this channel on Tuesday, July 22nd. Our ending explain and post-credit scene video will come out on Thursday, July 24th, and then our massive in-depth Easter egg breakdown of the film will drop on Friday, July 25th. And with all these big movies coming out, you might be seeing online a lot of discourse around movie YouTubers like us, and then people who disagree with our coverage, assuming that we're paid shills. We actually went deep into the subject in our Danger Room podcast, which is part of our new audio-only podcast subscription service called NR Underground, where we do some bonus tangential shop talk. If you're interested and able to support us doing that, join the NR Underground by clicking on the link in the description. Comment down below with your thoughts on all this, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Paolo Bianca, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels in the New Rock Stars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching.
I can't wait to see these videos. Well, why keep saying videos, bro? Oh my gosh, movies, bro. Movies are back. Sorry guys, but movies are back. Marvel is back. I can't wait to see Doomsday. I really hope, cause like a lot of people been saying like Toby and Wolverine might be in it, but like I really hope they is in Spider-Man and stuff. Like I just really hope they just, I don't know, I just want a hype setting again. How Endgame was, bro. I just or Infinity War was, bro. Like I just can't wait. I just can't wait.